Welcome to Touchline. I'm your host, Anthony Totera. We are here with Alex Chet. Alex, this is your first time to watch the regional tourney, the girls' age. What are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, look, it's great to see the best players within the province showcasing their abilities. So I'm glad I've got here at last. This is the first opportunity I've had to see the players within the region as they develop. So on first sights, there's some ability and some talent out there, which is great.
Now, Alex, you're just letting the coaches do their thing. You're not getting involved. You're making some notes, and you're just here to have a look, see how things are run.
Yeah, definitely. I'm still only 5 months into the role, so still putting everything together as we look at current best practices and consider how we move forward. And for me at the moment, it's also good to gauge the talents, understand what the regional coaches are looking for as they make their selections, the different capabilities within players, not just technical, tactical, but also mental and physical, and understanding the different attributes and habits that they're looking for players in different positions, which is good.
Well said, Alex. I was here the last 2 weekends of Ontario Cup action, and it's so different being here today, where mums and dads are screaming to make sure that they make the right pass and the goals. Today, everything's calm. Parents are nervous. They're uptight because coaches are watching their young ladies hopefully being selected by the provincial program. And having said that, now, let's talk about long-term player development. And here you see in the stands, the parents aren't yelling about going for a win and going for a goal or winning a trophy. They want to see their players develop. Talk about that, how it's going to be a huge mountain to climb for you and all your staff to make sure everyone understands.
Yeah, no, definitely. And this is part of the education process, and it's great to see here at the moment. Look, this is about identification. It's about players playing other players of comparable ability and seeing how they progress. It's not about any result. It's not about the team that wins this tournament. It's just about showcasing what's on offer, and the parents obviously are acknowledging that and understanding that, so you don't see some of the negative sort of the overemphasis on winning that you see in other places, and that's great. And this is a big part of long-term player development as we move forward, people understanding that there's different needs for players at different development stages, and if we focus too much on winning, it's detrimental to development. So it's great to see the environment here and that being understood by players, by coaches and by parents.
Well said, Alex. The last point is this. Everyone has to sing off the same hymn sheet. And if we don't get that in this long-term player development, I understand that they're going to be left by the wayside. Am I right?
Yeah, correct. Look, we're at a really exciting time in Ontario at the moment, and we've got a great group of minds together, and we're really making some inroads in regard to the direction that we need to head in. A huge part of that is education, and those messages getting down to the different audiences that need to understand where we're heading and why. They need to understand the challenges we have in the current system and understand why we're looking to make it better. And we can't run through this process. We have to take time to understand things and do it properly, and we need more people to understand before we do start to change. And there are some changes that we haven't joined all the dots together. We're still putting the piece of the puzzle together, and until we do that, until we turn over every stone, we can't progress with things. So at the moment it's about education. There's some great initiatives that will be rolled out next year. You're going to see new coaching courses. You're going to hear more about long-term player development. We're bringing in a new group of learning facilitators in November for training. It's a really important weekend for us. Coaching conference in February next year, and in the meantime, we'll be gathering more and more information as we start to work out what the future landscape looks like.
Alex, keep doing what's right for the player first and foremost, you and all your staff, because I know you're determined to change things around in this province and hopefully in this country.
Thanks, Anthony. Will do.
It is my pleasure. That is Alex Chet. Welcome to Touchline. I'm your host, Anthony Totera, coming to you again from the regional tryouts here, and the program has been such a success. Right now we're with Alex McNult. Alex, let's talk about the process. How does this process begin from the beginning and now to where we're at today?
Well, basically these players have all been scouted by the regional coaches. A lot of them have come through district programs at U12. From there they're identified for the regional team. And then this weekend is all about trying to select the players that we think have the potential now to go and play for Ontario.
Alex, talk about, I've noticed that a lot of teams have 5 or 6 representative players on the regions, and I mentioned to you, is that basically because their team has been so successful, or is it the quality, really?
Well, I mean, the issue that we face with the younger age groups is quite often that we end up with one team that's very strong, and that's an issue because they're not being challenged within the league. Hopefully with the new LTPD model that we're going to address that, so that we have children playing games where they're actually close games and there's a good challenge and it's not one-sided within a league where one team dominates. Unfortunately, the reality right now is that we face is that quite often in Ottawa, like for instance within my regional program right now, I have 10 players from the same team and they dominate the league. Now I select the players that deserve to be there. It doesn't matter which team they come from, which club they're with. If 10 of them are from one team, then so be it. If they're spread around, then that's great. But the reality is quite often we see one team that gets stacked and has most of the talent.
I have a little issue with that, Alex, because I got to be honest. If there's a team out there that's sitting at the bottom and there's a player that is really expressing themselves on the field, off the field, and is really waiting for a new challenge in their soccer path, why not go look at that team, that weaker team, and try and find that diamond in the rough? Why not spend more time in some of the weaker teams and looking them instead of always at the top teams?
Absolutely, and we do. I mean, I go out and I scout the teams, and I spend equal time looking. It's just that the reality is quite often a lot of the better players end up with one team, and that's something that we need to address, and that's why this LTPD is so important, and that's going to help us address that so that we don't end up with stacked teams and a league structure that's going to support even competition.
And I agree with that, but wouldn't you have maybe an open tryout where some of these players that are playing on weaker teams can show and display themselves against some of the better players on stronger teams? Because if that's what you're saying is that most of the good players tend to go to the better teams, that's fine. But then again, you still could find one or two possibly in those teams.
Absolutely, and what we have is a system in place where those players can also be recommended by club head coaches, by team coaches through the system, so that perhaps a team that in a lower league that I might not look at, I'll get that recommendation and I will go and look at them. So there's a process in place to allow those players to come through as well.
Let's talk about your region. I've always talked about your region with the flying colors, the way it's embraced the game of soccer in the last number of years. They're building new facilities, they're building more pitches, but more importantly, they're building quality players, boys and girls, young men, young girls. Talk about your region. Is it getting the respect in when it comes time to selecting other players, maybe for the national women's program, maybe for the national men's program?
Well, we have at the moment, talking about the women's program, 2 players in the last few years come through into the U17 national team, which is Rachel Beanlands and Aisha Kantav, which is great for our region. We also have a boy currently in the U17 national men's team. So I mean, there are players coming through. Like you said, the region has a number of great clubs that are doing some great stuff, and the players are there. And we see it this weekend that a number of my girls are out there this weekend and showing very well. So we expect to see a number of them go through into the provincial team again this year. Like I say, for me, I think the issue that we face is more around what environment are these players in within Ottawa. In terms of the league, right? And the problem that we face quite often is that the league is not quite as strong as what we're seeing in the GTA, in that we have a couple of really strong teams that can compete with those Toronto teams, but have we got the depth within the league of the number of teams that can provide the competition? And that's where I'm really excited about the LTPD model that's going to be introduced. I think that's going to help a lot.
I agree with that. There's some clubs like Sudbury that decide to play in the CSL. 98 boys, as I mentioned before, played in the CSL this year. I think about the Thunder Bay Chill that just won the Ontario Cup, the boys team there. They play in a men's league because the competition, they don't have the competition they need. Maybe in your region as well, to get the competition you need, maybe some of the teams have to make, and the parents, the commitment if they want that better competition to play in the CSL, or maybe get into a men's league.
Absolutely, it's all about finding the right competition, the right ratio of training to playing, and a good challenge when they do play, right? And an even competition, an even contest, and that's what the players need to be developed, right? One-sided games where a team wins 10-0 is not going to help a child's development, and that's what we got to move towards focusing on: is how are we going to develop our players, put the player first, and what's in the best interest of those players, and that's where LTPD is coming from.
Well said. I also know in your region there is some coaches, some good coaches that are being paid, being brought in from overseas, some of them from the U.S., some locally, but they're being respected, being paid, and they're being left to do their jobs. I think that is a bright spot for your region.
Absolutely. There are some excellent technical people within the region, and what we need is to all work together to put the player first, and we need to have a system around us and a structure that enables us to do that. And again, I've said it now, this is the 5th time, but that's what we're moving to, the new direction within the OSA, and that's what's so exciting right now.
Alex, you always say put the player first, and you and I agree with that 100%. Too many suits, not enough track suits. What do you say about that?
Absolutely. We need, I think, we need to move to where the decisions are made by technical people in the interests of the players, and that's going to be a healthy thing for the game.
Because too many times, Alex, you and I both know the guys that are pushing the paper, the women that are pushing the paper, getting involved with the guys that know the game, the soccer game. Why are they doing that? They should be left alone to do their job, and the coaches do their job.
It should. Again, it's about the system and the framework that we have right now, and maybe we all need to recognise that it needs to change. The work that a lot of the administrators do and the volunteers is fantastic. Like, they're giving up their time. It's selfless what they're doing, but the way the system is right now, there's maybe too much power in the hands of those people, and maybe sometimes they don't want that. They just want to help out and contribute, but we need to recognise what are people's strengths. The technical people have the strengths in terms of making the right decision for the players, and that's where we need to move.
Many of the volunteer coaches have their hearts in the right places. Many of them want to do what's right for the player. I don't think they have what it takes to get to that next level, like coaches like yourself and other in the provincial programs, and many in academies that have that. That's why I truly believe it needs to be left up to coaches like yourselves and others to do the job that needs to be done. Too many times, Alex, and I'll finish off with this last point, is we leave it to that volunteer coach that maybe has that great record, but really, is he developing that young man, young girl?
Well, and we need to support them, because the volunteer coaches are going to be a very important part of our future, but we need to educate them and give them the tools that they need in order to help the player, and they're a huge part of the future. We can't do without them, but we need to support them, and give them the tools that they need.
Alex, well said. Just finishing off the nice camaraderie amongst the provincial coaches all here today. Everyone joking, everyone on the same page to find the right player that's going to fit into the program to make Ontario shine.
Yes, I mean, that's what it's all about. We're here again, it's to find the players, and it's not about which region that we get players in from. There's no politics here. It's about the children on the field and what they're doing on the field, and we're all enjoying the weekend watching them play and watching them show what they can do, and we'll try and select the players that can best represent Ontario, regardless of where they're from or what club they're with or anything like that.
Well said, Alex McNult. Thanks again for joining us on Touchline. Well said. Keep up the great work.
Thanks, Anthony.
It's my pleasure having Alex McNult on Touchline.